Hello, my loves, and welcome to EQ with Jah. So today's topic is about control. As we watch the new earth continue to break out of its old shell and paradigm and be reborn into a new consciousness, we have to start being conscious and aware of all the many forms of control that have been diluted, broken down, and distorted into a fragment of fractal types of conditioning that we're not even realizing. In my opinion, throughout my life and the things I've encountered, there are 5 tiers to control that I see people try to either project on, emulate, or basically just take on as their own and say it's real. The first one that I've encountered, and let me just say them off first. The very first one is pride. The second is intellect. The third is seduction. The fourth is judgment. And the fifth is respect. So with that being said, pride is something that we have been taught to have. Pride is amazing when you understand that it's attached to your confidence and what you're able to produce, achieve, and do. But when the pride becomes so entrenched and distorted and an ego that is serving others discomforts of themselves, then that's when you can see that people will try to control you with pride. What does that look like? If someone talks about the way that you, let's say, raise your family, of course people are going to be very prideful of their family and how they come from a certain type of background. But let's be real. If your family represents something that you know they do and you collectively laugh about it, don't get mad if that is the emulation of the world that you're putting out there. It's just something that's cultural or something that you say, hey, whatever. It's what we do. It's my pride. I'm happy about it. Do you? This is where I've learned about being gay has come into a big interpretation for people, because when people meet me, they're like, you're not like other gay people. Listen, honey, it's not about being like other gay people. My pride in being gay is saying that I'm not ashamed of myself. And therefore, I owe you no explanation. So if you try to attack that, there's not much you can do that's going to really affect me beyond that. Do you understand? Now, the second part is intellect. When people see that they cannot break your pride, when they see that they cannot break you down, they're going to come for your intellect, because believe it or not, there's a lot of beautiful people with some strong will out there who know what they're doing, but they're still insecure about what they feel they know based on conditioning or some other level of access to didactic settings or whatever you want to call it. And so if you meet people, again, this is something that's very critical to see. I don't think people see this, and I've watched it as a young child. When the buff guys who have all the pride, the jocks, grow up and they are not all there mentally, then you start seeing the dorky guys who went inward into their feminine energy to become more brain muscle, more brain power. Damon Dash was just talking about this, or Dame Dash, sorry. He was saying something that was so profound to me that most people don't stop to think about, which I've always noticed as a gay black man, because I've been forced into these worlds of, if you don't fit this, then fit this. If you don't fit this, then fit this. If you fit this, then you got to fit this, which makes no absolute sense to me. So that's why when you start recognizing the levels of power, if it's distorted on one end of pride, it's going to be distorted on the other end of intellect. And that's unfortunately where humans have gotten stuck, between brawn and intelligence. And both are part of the human condition that serve to create something greater than ourselves. So if you pay attention to how people try to make you feel bad, like, well, actually, and that's not scientifically proven, or logically, that type of attitude comes from a type of sense of, I got my people behind me, and we gonna tell you that you're wrong because we outnumber you. That's silly. Intellect is meant to cognitively break down happenings and situations and emotional understandings around us, to reapply it to our own lives and make sense how to decipher this world, not to try to be condescending to others or break them down. Now, after pride, if you can't break their pride, if you can't break their intelligence, guess what? The funniest part of all of this world that I've noticed, because I've gotten to a certain level of status, if they can't break your pride or break your intellect, people will try to seduce you. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen, but that's when it comes back to the phenomena of masculine and feminine energy. If a masculine energy sees that they can't dominate a naturally feminine energy, oh, that turns them on because they feel they're compatible. Like, ooh, they can handle my level of intensity. there's a level of play in that, but then there's a level of distortion, which is where we get the term F-boys and thoughts and all this stuff. There's kids who grow up learning how to seduce the person who is abusing society. Why do you think there's so many politicians and people of power who end up with hookers? I'm just telling you, there's a level of power there that must be recognized if we do not start to really internalize what we're feeling and then express it in a way that is healthy because we actually walk through what it means. A lot of times people think, oh, well, I can just seduce them this way. They're stupid. I can get them this way. Seduction is that next level of emotional intelligence. Pride and intellect, they fall within the logical realms of intelligence, which is, again, that's a linear perspective, A to B. But once you get to that third aspect, which is seduction, that's why you have people like Cardi B talk about something, I ain't got to cook or clean, but I got that ring. That's a real statement because there's men and women out there who think being pretty is enough. And being pretty is not enough. Being good in bed is not enough. For some people who are, I would say, insecure and still living in trauma, that might be enough. But for somebody who's healed and whole, that ain't enough because they know they can grow the same thing from themselves. I can seduce anything I want to and get what I need to, but that's not going to benefit my overall health because seduction is just going to pull in distorted versions of something that's in balance, and I don't need that, okay? The fourth one is, and this is where it's so funny, when you see that pride doesn't work, when you see that intellect doesn't work, and when you see that you can't beat them with their seduction, guess what the next level is of distortion? Judgment. And guess what that judgment does? They a hoe, they a trick, they this, they that, they all these nasty things because they don't want me. And that's when you have to start recognizing, oh, you're emotionally attacking me because you think I don't want you or you can't have me. That's something based on a whole nother level of reasoning that you grew up with. This is why you get people who come up with paper laws and fake rules and fake things. You have to wear your hair like this. You got to dress like this. You got to talk like this because they're insecure and threatened by the energy they're attracted to being more attracted to you. Take attention away from them and they don't get what they want. Do you understand how intertwined this is in our society that we don't pay attention to this? This is something that we have to start breaking down the effect because it goes pride, then it goes intellect, then it goes this, ding, 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 and it goes up and down and back and forth depending on how you do it because it's the law of duality. If you believe in one, the other half is going to produce another, and then that half is going to produce its own reflection of self, and they're going to keep butterflying, branching out, becoming whatever it needs to be so that it becomes a part of our conditioning. The last part is forced respect. Forced respect comes from two things. It is not bad to force respect. It's also bad to try to force it onto others. Now, what I mean by that is it's not bad to force respect. If I walk into a room and somebody says, Juwan, you're crazy, da-da-da, hey girl, hey this. Nah, I'm gay, but I'm a man. Don't forget it. Don't call me girl. I'm not one of your girlfriends. I'm not one of these gay guys who love to go shopping and do all that. I think it's beautiful if you do, but I'm not a stereotype. Respect me as a grown man. Bam. That's demanding my respect without trying to control someone else. Now, if I walk into the room and say, you saw me walk in here, you better stand up and say something and acknowledge me. Who do you think you are? Those are the two levels that I've seen now run the world. These are the two energies right now who run the world. You better respect me or I'm gonna mess you up, or you better see my respect or I'm just not messing with you. Both completely out of a realm of insecurities, because if someone says to me, hey girl, I don't owe you an explanation. If I give you an explanation, I will admit there's a level of insecurity that's saying, I don't appreciate you associating me with this, this, and this, and that. But it doesn't mean that I feel disrespected that you associate me with that. So even in those aspects, I have to check myself. Like, you know what? They're just trying to find a way to be friendly, let them have their moment. Usually what I do in that situation is I'll take them aside and joke like, hey, I don't mind if you like play around and be like, hey girl, accidentally, but you know, that's just not the type of person I am. So can you please just acknowledge me as Juwan? To me, that's trying to show respect more and say, hey, this is what I need in order for us to function together. And if they can't do that, then you walk away from it. What happens is there's people who don't like being told anything and don't like being checked at all. So they will try to take that distorted respect and try to destroy your life. And unfortunately, that is a deep-seated root in trauma that is somewhere in there. Somebody thought it was okay to take, or get you so distorted to thinking you deserve it that you don't think anybody else should have it. This is where we get elitism, racism, all this, homophobia, blah, blah, because you believe you deserve something greater than me, so therefore you're going to try to force respect by saying, I don't do that. I don't believe in that. Good for you. I don't need your respect, nor do I require it or desire it. So these are the things we have to pay attention to right now as we're going into the new earth. These are the 5 tiers of control that I've noticed people are going to try to test. They're going to try to test your pride. They're going to try to test your intellect. They're going to try to test your seduction, your judgment, and your respect. And at the end of the day, as a human being, we are multifunctional beings who are meant to have all 5 of these things working at all times. In my mind, that's why we got 5 fingers. And if we got 5 fingers, that means there's a shadow side to duplicate it, to have duality, which means there's a polarity. So that means all of these people, 5 times fold this way, 5 times fold this way, are living in 2 completely different worlds. And it's time to unify these so that we can see it is a ripple effect and a reflection of everything we do in this world comes out of a place of fear. If all you try to do is control, you will find ways to control. But if you allow yourself to be in charge, that's a much different outlook. When you're in charge of your pride, you don't have to say anything. You can see it. When you're in charge of your intellect, you don't have to do anything. People can hear it. When you're in charge of your seduction, again, you can see it. Judgment, you can see it. Respect, you can feel it. It's a presence. It's something that someone cannot take away from you no matter how much they try. Remember this, my loves, when you go into this awakening of the consciousness of the ego body, the consciousness of the soul heart, the consciousness of your actual mind's conscience, because it is there. The conscious is a conscience of itself, recognizing itself in co-creation, activation, stagnation, growth, death, everything with the universe. So take into consideration how you're walking out into this world and allowing different types of control to affect you, because eventually they will become a behavior, a temperament, and conditioning. And my love, that's called hypnosis. That's how hypnosis works. If I can get you to believe this behavior is true based on the environmental conditionings, that becomes your temperament, and now you will react the way I need you to react. Do not let the world have this much control over you, my loves. Allow yourselves to sink into emotional regulation so that when you start to interact with this world, you will see when people are trying to test you and you can say, baby, checkmate, take that somewhere else. Ain't got time for that. As always, guys, I love you, love you, love you. Hey, I finished under 15 minutes. I love that. Check me out on all my social media platforms. And as always, I love you. Take care of yourself. Besos, besos, besos. Mwah.